Hello, this is Pauper to the People, brought to you by MTG Madness. You can find them at mtgmadness.com. So check them out. That sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
Cool. um. All right. I guess we're just gonna jump right into it. This is Pauper to the People. I am Nate. With me is Peter
Hello.
and Chris from
Hi.
Poly version 2. How you guys been doing? How you guys doing today?
Uh,
Not bad.
Doing
That's
good.
good. Well, we got a lot to talk about tonight. I've happened to find a lot of cool articles. We're not going to discuss all of them, just briefly go over them. I basically, there's good articles to read. David Shaffer put an article out called Glass Cannons Benefits. Glass called Glass Cannons Benefits Thought Experiments. Basically, he just goes into why glass cannons work and basically how to build one that actually works in
Yeah.
the metagame.
Glass cannons and the benefits of thought experiments.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good article.
Yeah, and he goes over why, the average goldfish and why it's so important. And I covered this when you guys had me on the first time. Where
Yeah.
how do you beat fissure? Well, you need to have a goldfish of at least turn 4.
Yeah.
Or you need to be able to disrupt their combo.
Mhm.
So
So yeah, it was just a good article. I did read the whole thing. I had a lot of time to spare when I'm donating plasma, so I just kind of take my phone out and read these things. Then if for anyone who's interested in EDH, there's some that do. There's an article by Peyton. He talks about his Rexiel Risen Deep EDH deck. It's a pretty interesting deck. Rexiel Risen Deep is a pretty. Well, I've seen quite a few decks of him pop up in EDH because he's really good. So it's just kind of some or little extra article if anyone wants to pick it up. Dan, our good friend Dan. Speaking of Dan, September 23rd, he'll be joining us to talk about the Pauper Gauntlet.
Yay.
So that should be interesting. He did an article called "The Last Days of Flickergate and Standard Pauper," so that was a pretty interesting read. Like I said, we got lots to go through, so I'm just kind of briefly going over these. He just talks about how Flickergate was good and it's really going to change the meta when it goes away.
yeah, it's going
And
to enable faster decks.
yeah. And then you wanted to mention something, Chris?
Yeah, so Team DBC is running a Battle for Charity for Child's Play. It's a charity organization that donates like toys and games for kids who otherwise wouldn't have them. That's their whole purpose. So what DBC is doing is the Battle for Charity, where you can donate straight, or you can do what's called a pledge, where you pledge. Like for example, I'm pledging that every daily event, if I go 3-1, I donate a pack, and if I go 4-0, then I donate 2 packs to the charity. And at the end of this season, this qualifier season, they're going to take all the packs, sell them for like real life money, and donate everything that they've made to Child's Play.
That's cool.
And specifically, I want to talk about like a huge donor here, which I gotta find him. Donation board, bam. Just Sin has not made a pledge, the same way that I've made a pledge. Instead, he donated $150 straight up
Wow.
to the donation. So, big shout out to Just Sin right there. It's a huge donation. So, thank you, Just Sin.
That's pretty good. It's nice for the community to come out like that and do stuff for a good cause. Yeah, it's pretty good. What else do we got here? Theros spoilers. We're at 116 of 249. So we're getting close. I think next week we'll have a full set to review on. So that's going to be a
Yep.
long one. Be ready.
Good old set reviews.
Yep. Even though we are doing a set review, there are there is a common they spoiled that is actually pretty interesting. It's called I'll just go over it. We'll go over it here. It's called Omen Speaker. It is a one colorless blue. It's a creature human wizard. When Omen Speaker enters the battlefield, you scry 2, and it's a 1/3 creature. So basically, what we're looking at is I want to say a cheaper version of a what is that?
Seagate Oracle.
Of a Seagate Oracle, but you just don't get to draw a card, but you get to scry. So it's actually pretty interesting, and that I can see this card taking the place of some things depending on what deck. I mean, it's not a bad card.
Yeah. So where I see this guy and where I'm going to test him at is in the Delver lists, Delver Fairy lists, replacing where Frostburn Weird usually sits.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Yeah, it is.
Because you almost never really want to pump the Frostburn Weird.
You
Yeah.
just want to kind of sit there and be menacing.
You want to kind of sit there and gum up the ground, and this guy is going to provide you with. It's not card advantage, and that's why he doesn't work like Seagate Oracle does, because Seagate Oracle actually replaces itself. But the Omen Speaker lets you see more cards, and that's how Delver wins.
Yeah, because you can eliminate 2 cards that would have slowed you down possibly,
Yeah.
and get something new hopefully.
So where I'm going to test him at is basically in my deck is the Piracy Charm spot. So I'm taking out the 3 Piracy Charms. I'm going to put 3 of these guys in there and see how that works out for me.
To say the least, he's probably going to make an appearance in the standard meta here, especially with
Oh yeah.
everything going to be changing here soon. That's why I think this Theros set review is also going to play a big part, because with the entire metagame changing, it's going to be interesting to see how things are going to pan out and work.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, then we'll go more into the Omen Speaker, because our topic 1 that we're gonna go through actually talks about that card more in detail, and a few other cards from the new set that are commons. So it's pretty interesting. That article's pretty good. But the other thing we got for our players who might play a little bit EDH or whatever and use rares, we have another card. We've got a Planeswalker. And I'll let Peter go over the red-green one if he can find it. But we got a black-blue Planeswalker. It's 1 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black. Ashiok, the Nightmare Weaver. Her abilities are she comes into play through loyalty counters. And it's a +2 exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. Her got -X loyalty counters. Put a creature card with converted mana cost of X exiled with Ashiok Nightweaver onto the battlefield under your control. And that creature is a nightmare in addition to its other types. And its ultimate is -10. Exile all cards from all opponents' hands and graveyards. Which I understand why the loyalty is so high on that, because that is a really, really powerful ultimate. That almost ends the game.
It's, to be honest, for a 10, that seems kind of underwhelming, I'll be honest.
It really does.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Is because if you're taking up this Planeswalker and whatever, and they're not dealing with her, then the -10 isn't actually going to do much, because they're probably emptied their hands already, and emptying somebody else's graveyard is really
There's not really a graveyard strategy like in standard, and there's just better options in legacy and other stuff.
I could see in casual play, though, if they played a proliferate strategy, this could really, really hurt.
I have to say, probably the most intimidating thing on her entire thing is the -X one, but
stealing somebody's creature.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be ignored too that this is a repeatable source of mill. It's kind of like Jace Memory Adept, but it comes down 2 turns earlier. So if you can protect it for a while, you can start burning them away.
Well, provided we have the black
3 cards at a time.
Blue-black mill.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a pretty interesting card nonetheless. I kind of find it cool. I mean, yes, everyone knows Elspeth is coming back, but I find the new Planeswalkers that they make, that aren't new copies of old Planeswalkers, and more interesting, just because it's kind of cool to see them coming up with new Planeswalkers and what they're gonna do.
Well, that's because whenever they revisit an older Planeswalker, they still want to keep the flavor of that Planeswalker to that character. So while they make new variations, they want to keep things similar to within what that Planeswalker strives to do.
Yeah. But no, I always find the new Planeswalkers pretty cool and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
the Ashiok.
Although everyone knows they bomb sometimes, like Tibble.
They were experimenting.
They were experimenting.
Yeah, they were experimenting with the 2-mana Planeswalker there. They couldn't really do much.
That, as I say,
but now,
2 mana, that could have made or break that entire character.
And they
Yeah.
because Tybalt's horrible.
Yeah. I'll say Ashiok doesn't really protect herself well. Well, it's her, right?
Yeah, I think so. Looks like her.
So she doesn't really protect herself well, but you know, unless you're minus Xing the second you put her down in play to get her defender out, which maybe that's a valid argument right there. Is you, let's say you kill their Ash Zealot or something, and then you, oh wait, no, it has to be, the card has to be exiled with Ashiok to be able to use the minus X ability.
Yeah.
So she's exiling into her own exile zone. And
Yeah.
Yeah, so shit. +2 doesn't really defend her at all.
Yeah. But it should be interesting to see what people do with her. I mean,
yeah.
At least
3-mana planeswalkers are historically pretty powerful,
Yeah.
so we'll see.
Xenagos looks terrifying though. Or
What's
at least
that one?
Xenagos the Reveler, he's the red-green one.
Yeah, explain him.
Okay, so 4-drop, 3 loyalty coming in. His let's say for his +1, he's got add X mana of any combination where X of combination of red or green to your mana pool where X is the number of creatures you control. So his +1 is basically Gaia's Cradle,
Ooh, nice.
which in and of itself is pretty dang good card.
Really,
Say,
yeah, really
getting
powerful.
that much
Really powerful
mana.
effect.
So going down, spending 4 mana generally, slap him down, you're playing an aggro deck, you're getting almost your full mana back just by using his +1 the turn he comes in. For
Yeah.
second ability, he protects himself, which also makes him a good planeswalker. As a 0, he puts in a 2/2 red-green satyr creature token with haste. So again, if you're going on the offensive, he drops into a guy to attack immediately the turn you put him in, or he puts up something to defend himself. And then his ultimate, which is -6 only, exile the top 7 cards of your library. You may put any number of creatures and or land cards from among them onto the battlefield. So he's basically got like a mini Genesis wave for his ultimate.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. This guy. If you play standard, I would look out for this guy.
Yeah.
He's pretty insane.
He seems like a pretty solid and well-built guy. Just
Oh yeah, definitely. This is easily one of those $30 cards on opening that will probably go up in price for a while.
also, he's a satyr, so that makes him cooler in my book.
Yeah, it is. I was just gonna say he looks like a satyr, which I'm glad they grasped with
Yeah.
this set because they haven't really done it much in the past. Is having satyrs as a creature type.
Well, it's because they went to Greek mythology here, so they need
Yeah.
to play up the flavor as much as they can.
Yeah,
And I think they did it well with this guy.
yeah, it's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah. So hey, Pauper podcast, guys.
Oh, we do that? My bad.
Oh yeah, we do. All right. What have you guys been playing? Go for it, Chris.
Oh, I played a few daily events. I've been toying around with Fissure and daily events because I'm really trying to get the hang of it. So I played Blue-White Fissure in a daily event with the Sunscape Familiars, and I realized why nobody plays Blue-White Fissure because it's such a the mana is really inconsistent, and that killed. I lost round 1. I don't remember to who, and won round 2, and then round 3 I faced up against goblins, and because I had to play an Azorius Chancery to get blue-colored mana, or before I had access to blue-colored mana, I lost.
Ouch.
They overwhelmed me. I won game 1 and they beat me game 2 and 3 because I got color screwed basically. So if you're playing Fissure, just stick with the mono blue version.
It's the most efficient.
Well, it's monocolored, so it's gonna be efficient.
Well, I mean, the Goblins games would have gone way different if I didn't have to wait till turn 3 to get blue mana.
Yeah,
Definitely.
If that Azorius Chancery was an island, the games would have gone way differently because I sideboarded in 4 Hydroblasts, and I had them in my hand, but by the time I was able to finally cast them, it was just too late.
That sucks.
So.
Anything else?
Not too much.
Okay. Peter, what have you been playing?
Besides the EDH with you guys, I've been going ahead and just taking in the last bit of I'm going to enjoy of our decks for a while, like the old Gruul build, because that's always that's my favorite deck to fall back on standard Pauper.
Yeah.
Because that thing still tears it up, even against like Flickergate and Mono Blue Flyers, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And then just giving the old blue-white extort control deck a last run before I have to say goodbye to it.
Yeah.
So saying farewell to our current meta and standard and getting ready for the new one.
I have to say, out of all the standard events we did, I have to say all the standard Pauper brew ones we did, I really do like I like the Grow build. I never had a chance to play it because that's when my computer was down most of the time. But I really got into starting that extort build. That extort build was really, really fun. The only problem with it was it got to a point where like for me, it got to a point where you ended up punishing yourself almost because you just pretty much sat and waited and stopped everything they did. And you're trying to win, and it takes time to win with that deck, and your opponent is just thinking you're just being a jerk and drawing it out.
No. That deck was not designed to be quick by any means.
Yeah. So your opponent's sitting on the other side like, okay, this jerk is stopping everything I do, and I can't do anything, and he's just sitting on the fence. What a dick, you know? And
it's like that one guy who plays in God, I forgot what deck it was. It doesn't show up very often. It was like black, red, something. It had 4 creatures, and the rest was like land and removal. It's the most ridiculous deck ever. You're like, play something, it's dead. Okay. How about this one?
It sounds like the blue-black mill deck.
Pretty much. Like, I wanted
four Curse of the Bloody Tomes and all removal and land.
Get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's all. I've been playing that a lot in Standard Pauper too, because I'm gonna be missing that because Curse of the Bloody Tomb goes away. So blue-black mill stops being a deck.
Well, hopefully they give us a decent supplement in the new set, because blue-black mill was nice because it was the creatureless deck in the meta.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they so far they haven't, because Millstone is uncommon, so we need a repeatable source of mill before mill is actually a deck.
That's true.
And that's what Curse of the Bloody Tomb served.
Hopefully they don't have to go to
Pauper.
Well, there's always Doorkeeper, I guess, but he seems
He's
to be a
clunky.
Now,
He's too clunky.
so the way, the way that blue-black mill worked was because all of people's removal and unsummons and whatever were just dead cards because they didn't run any creatures. So, if your opening hand is like 3 creatures, a Doomblade, Tragic Slip, and like 2 lands, then your Tragic Slip is dead in hand because I don't have anything you can target with your Tragic Slip.
And you also got to keep in mind that Doorkeeper's not even be that good because you're losing your soulbound creature that makes him awesome.
You have Galvanic Alchemist if you're going for the unlimited.
Yeah.
Well, like I said.
Yeah, you also lose the Elgod Shieldmate, so he can't be hexproof anymore.
So many things disappear.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, hopefully we get to see what we get for the here soon, because I want to get my fingers on that stuff, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Theros, actually. I think the set's going to have some interesting cards, just because of the mechanics, and the more I look at the mechanics, and after reading this article we have coming up, it made me really rethink the mechanics a lot to be, hey, maybe they're not that bad. But anything else, Peter? Have you played anything else other than video games?
The standard Pauper and stuff like that.
Standard Pauper.
Not a whole lot, I guess. Just some darts over here and there, but that's about it.
What have I been doing? We talked a few weeks ago about Sneak Attack Kid, his Mono Black list. I've had some time to mess around with that list and play with it, and I have to tell you guys that deck is so oppressive, and it ticks so many players off. Yeah,
it's really good.
Really, really good. Today, in fact, when I was donating plasma, I brought my laptop and I was sitting here playing MTGO while I was donating, and I had this player. I was taking on Dimmer Post, and I just completely shut him out both games, and he was not happy at all. Because he'd get me down in life, and he'd take out my Augur of Skulls, and I'd be right there with Unearth to bring it right back into play. So it's like, what? Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a crazy list. It's really, really oppressive. It's a lot of fun to play. If you're an MBC player, I recommend trying it out.
Yeah, his list is really good, and I mean, for me, it's a toss-up because I play both his list and the the Singer from Singer list, the Ghoul
Yeah.
Raiser list, and both of them are impressive, just in slightly different ways. I think Sneak Attack Kid's list is overall
Yeah.
better, like against a general meta. But man, if you can get the Ghoul Raiser engine online with the Singer from Singer's deck, it almost
Yeah.
can't lose.
And I mean, it's like just look at the list before I got a chance to play. I'm like, God, this looks impressive. But playing it, it's like, wow, you really from turn 3, you pretty much, if your opponent hasn't done anything yet, you pretty much have control of the game. They're not going to be able to do much of anything. It's a complete downhill struggle for them because every time they bring something on board, you just get rid of something. I actually took Goblins on, and that was a lot of fun because I'm just sitting here. I know what Goblins does. They're going to play the Foundry Denizen. Then they're going to play something else to make them bigger. So I'm like, okay. They go to play their next Goblin, and I'm like, guess Verdict before they play the Goblin. Just shutting it down. It's just that and the Envenkar's Justice. Pretty powerful.
Haven't you always talked about Envenkar's
Peter
Justice?
does. Peter
I
really
love
likes
that
that card.
Oh, Peter.
I'm a sucker for it, I'll be honest.
Didn't you steamroll? Didn't we have that Pauper Cube event where you pretty much steamrolled everybody with that card?
Close to it. It's basically hold them off until I got Justice and just bought back at every turn. And then had, what was it, Blood Hunter?
It takes 7 mana, though. 7 mana to buy it back.
Well, if you get to Cube and you can get to that point, there's nothing that survives long enough, because you're playing the black deck. You have removal for anything that's above 2 toughness. You're like, kill, Justice.
Yeah.
Justice. I'm close to dying. Blood Hunter back to Justice.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But other than that, I did download Soulforge. I've just played the tutorial. It looks pretty interesting. I'm kind of interested in playing that tonight. So I'm gonna give that a shot. It's an interesting take on. It's a different game. It's pretty cool. I don't really understand exactly everything that's going on just yet. It's kind of confusing because the tutorial doesn't really do that good of a job. But I'll get there. So it looks pretty cool though. I really want to get into it and try it out. So, and it's free on Steam, isn't it? Yeah, free on Steam and Apple. So it's pretty cool. Other than playing EDH, that's all I've really been up to. That and putting all the show notes together and freaking out, worrying that I'm gonna make myself sound like an idiot tonight. But I did nothing much. All right. Topic 1. Brew of the month. It is September. It's time to do a brew of the month. But I think everyone here is pretty much in agreement that until Theros comes out, it's kind of dead right now. I mean, we could do something, but I don't know. I really think we should wait till Theros comes out to see what Theros offers before doing a brew of the month.
Yeah, because you're going to have a full rotation of Innistrad block out, and so
Exactly.
the meta is going to be completely changed, and that's when brew of the months are really the most fun, is when the meta isn't established
so we
yet.
can actually try breaking something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
breaking games is fun. Which brings us into an article by Brennan. The article was so good when I read it today that I ended up making it topic 1 because it fit in with the fact that we're not doing a brew of the month. So this is an article by Brennan. It's called Post Standard Pauper Rotation Grief Counseling Part 1. And if anyone's ever watched The Simpsons, where Homer Simpson goes through all 5 stages of grief, it shows a short video on that, and he just basically what this article talks about how much the metagame will change in Standard Pauper when Innistrad rotates out. He highlights 2 decks that are really going to be affected by it, but for one of them, he came up with an answer where he came to the conclusion that what's left of one of the other decks, you can turn into something else. It's a pretty lengthy article, so I'm gonna kind of skim through it here. The big thing on this article is he listed all the cards that are unique in the format right now,
The 133
The
cards that generally
133 cards,
develop
yeah.
or that build the all the archetypes in Standard Pauper.
Yeah, there's 133 of them, and that's a lot of cards. And so some people may think that with 133 cards, with everything rotating out, it shouldn't affect that much. Well, if you look at the second list, there's only 71 cards left. So
we lose about half of what the metagame is.
Yeah, you lose half the metagame, which that's a lot of cards to really make people have to rethink decks and have to brew something new. So I found that interesting. Two of the decks that he highlights in here that are completely messed up, or if not dead, is Bug Flickergate. Yes, Peter. The deck Peter hates.
Okay, I'll understand. Let me reiterate. I don't hate the deck. It's efficient and does exactly what it does, but it is frustrating to play against. Because if you're against it, chances are the game will go to time. And the thing is, you can't bail out of it earlier than that because there's a part where if they make one mistake at all during their plays, they could lose it.
Yeah.
So you sit down there for that entire match going, whatever. It comes down to basically what happens and who makes the first mistake. So it's not that I hate the deck. It's frustrating to play against. That's all.
Okay. Basically, I was thinking we'll go through. We'll go through what the basic deck list is, because in this article he puts what the basic deck list is, and he points out what's left after the rotation. What cards are actually going to be left to use.
Yep.
And I'll let Chris go through the deck list. Go for it.
All right. So the basic Bug Flickergate deck list is 2 forests, 3 islands, 3 swamps, 4 Golgari Guild Gates, 4 Dimir Guild Gates, 4 Simic Guild Gates, 2 Haunted Fengraphs for lands. And creatures, we have 2 Ravenous Rats, 4 Elvish Visionaries, 1 Borderland Ranger, 1 Mist Raven, 4 Archaeomancer, 1 Bloodhunter Bat, 4 Gatekeeper Vines, 4 Ceruli Gatekeepers, 4 Ubulsar Gatekeepers. Bleh. And then spells, 1 Prophetic Prism, 1 Forbidden Alchemy, 3 Victim of Night, 1 Grave Purge, 3 Murder, 4 Ghostly... I don't think I've ever seen that card in this list before. 3 Murder, 4 Ghostly Flicker, and for sideboard we have 3 Naturalize, 2 Beckon Apparition, 3 Dispel, 3 One-Eyed Scarecrow, 1 Trestle Troll, and 1 Basilisk Creature, and 2 Devour Fleshes.
You've never seen Grave Purge in the list before?
Not main board.
Well, I guess
I think it was main board.
Problem enough where people were playing Mill.
It got added.
Yeah, I
It
guess
got
so.
added after Mill.
Well, it's the one card that saves you against
So-
Mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't even do that great of a job against it. Anyway, so the terrible version of Flickergate, you lose the Haunted Fengraphs. I guess... So, I'm trying to make a comparison here on the fly. You lose Haunted Fengraphs, Ravenous Rats, Elvish Visionary, Mist Raven, Borderland Ranger, Bloodhunter Bat.
The vast majority of your Flicker utility creatures.
You lose everything.
Yeah, and then all,
Gatekeepers.
and then you lose all your spells, basically.
You get to keep your prism.
Mostly Ghostly Flicker.
Yeah.
You do get to keep your prophetic Prism, but you lose your Ghostly Flickers, and that's really the big one. You also lose like Victim of Night and Murder, but yeah, most importantly, you lose the Ghostly Flicker, so the spell doesn't, or the deck doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it's I would love to see someone try to make this deck work, but I don't think it will.
Well, there's no way to reuse Enter the Battlefield effects
No.
unless you want to unsummon your stuff repeatedly.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And then the
Yeah.
Mono Blue Flyers deck gets hit almost just as hard.
Yeah.
The Mono Blue Flyer deck loses all of its creatures,
Minus Frostburn,
except for
Weird,
Frostburn, Weird, and
Raptor.
so yeah, Mono Blue Flyers is no longer a deck.
But as you go further down, you mentioned Mono Blue Flyers. You go through it. Brennan notes in here that we're getting certain cards that can completely change the Mono Blue Flyers into something else. We got Omen Speaker. We talked about that. We pointed it out. The fact that let's use Scry 2 to look for better cards. It's I mean standard Pauper. I think Owen Speaker will really, if you kept the core creatures that are already in here, like he states in the article, and just start playing around with some, like the Omen Speaker and some of these Scry cards, you actually have a brand new deck that will probably work quite well. Yeah. We got the Omen Speaker. We already discussed this one, but the one colorless blue. When it enters the battlefield, you scry 2, and it's a 1/3. I mean, it's actually not bad, considering what you're putting into the deck. And then we got this one, the Nimbus Naiad. It's an enchant. It's a creature with Bestow, the new ability. It's 2 colorless, 1 blue. The Bestow is 4 colorless and a blue, and it's a 2/2 flyer with enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has flying. Immediately when I see this card in the list, you notice if you're getting this Nimbus Naiad late game, it's really, really cool because we have all these this 0/1, this Prosper and Weird. They're really weak creatures, but giving it 2/2 and paying the 5, it hits late game, paying the 5 and giving it +2/+2 actually is not that bad of a benefit. And on top of that, if the player goes ahead and destroys the creature, so you can't enchant it, you're still getting a 2/2 flyer. So it's really not that bad. You're pretty much trading one creature for another if they destroy your creature. So, oh well, you're still getting a creature that you can swing with next turn. So it's actually not that bad. He notes in the article that granted it isn't as good as a Stormbound Geist or a Stitch Drake, it's still a 2/2 flyer. And flying, and I've played it, if you've played enough standard Pauper, flying is enough to win. Just having flying and being evasive, so it's pretty good. And then he goes on down here to the Wave Crash Triton. And this guy, it's a 2 colorless, 1 blue. Heroic. When you cast a spell that targets the Triton, you tap target creature an opponent controls, and they can't untap during their next untap step. Well, you know what's what this deck is? He goes in here. He goes, it's basically a guy. The heroic mechanic works each time it's targeted by a spell you control. If only you had some spells to target it every turn, and given the metagame, there might be some.
Hidden Strings is what he's mentioning.
If you look at the list, Hidden Strings, man, that's wicked. Like I was thinking, how am I ever going to cast all these spells that target my creatures repeatedly? Because I can't use Storm mechanics if classic Pauper to target him, because Storm doesn't work. But look at Hidden Strings. It's like, wow, I finally found an actual use for that card.
So not
now.
only is it basically
Hidden Strings
blue Ghetto Vigilance, it's giving blue Ghetto Vigilance while making him a Frost Titan while he does it.
Yeah.
And then the second part still taps on another creature.
So awesome.
Yeah.
So.
And you're pretty much shutting down your opponent's board, and you can pretty much walk through and kill your opponent really easily. And he is a 3-drop, and he's a 1/4, so that 1/4 automatically makes him harder to kill.
Yeah.
So
Frost Titan was my favorite Titan, so I'm really digging this list, and I'm definitely gonna give it a try.
And then we got Voyage's End. It's 1 white, 1 blue. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Scry 1. Basically, we get a Disperse with the Scry ability on it, which it's not the greatest thing, but being able to go 1 deeper.
Well, hang on there. It's not a Disperse. It's unsummon.
It's my bad, unsummon. But being able to bounce a creature and go 1 deep, I mean, you're playing blue. Going 1 deep and finding if it's a good card or a bad card and being able to put it at the bottom of your library, not necessarily a bad thing.
It's definitely going to have to compete with the Silent Departure slot for the blue decks, though.
That's good.
Because even though it's sorcery, Silent Departure you still get 2 uses out of.
Isn't Silent Departure going away?
Silent Departure is going away.
Oh, never mind. That's right.
Yeah. It's not competing. It's gone.
Now, actually, the question is whether you want the utility of Disperse to be able to disperse enchantments, or whether you want the Scry 1 ability of Voyage's End in the mono blue deck.
I could see playing Voyage's End main board and putting Disperse in the sideboard. I guess.
Well, you say that until you lose to Hexproof
Forest.
Forest.
Yeah, I know, right? hate that deck so bad. See, that's the deck for me. See, that's the deck for me. I don't like Flickergate is ridiculous, but that Aura's deck is the one deck that just every time I lose to it, it just ticks me off.
I told you it's the one.
Yeah, and the
deck
utility.
You're like, never again, never again. And everyone wonders why.
Man, I've totally
freaking sideboard enchantment hate.
Yeah, I totally forgot when you asked me what I was playing. I played a ton of M14 Limited, so and Gladecover Scout is back in full force, folks. Don't forget about that.
Auras, I was gonna say Junk Auras is still gonna be around with this standard meta. That's
Unfortunately.
How many hexproof guys do we have
Primal
now?
Hunt
Pauper.
Beast Rebel. I think Primal Hunt Beast came back in M14, didn't he?
No, it did not.
And I think it's at least Rubbleback, Rhino, and Gladecover Scout, or is at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything other than those two. So is hexproof even going to be a thing?
Well, in the original hexproof one, it was just the Hunt Beast and the Rubbleback Rhino were the only ones with hexproof, but I guess you did have a Seraph of Dawn to throw stuff on too if you needed to.
Well, you had the Seraph of Dawn. You I thought you had Elgod Shield Mate occasionally too, right?
Well, they usually try to keep it to black, white, green.
Yeah, I don't
see them splash into blue, but it didn't pan out well for them usually because if they did, they usually went for Tricks of the Trade.
You're putting that mana too thin too. You're already running 3 colors in that deck. Now you're spreading the mana out way too thin.
All right. Well, never mind me then. So yeah, we only have 2 hexproof guys, and
yeah.
I like the utility with Disperse better in that situation.
And then we've got Lost in a Labyrinth. 1 blue mana, target creature gets -3, -0 until end of turn. Basically, I guess I see this card as something where you're looking at from the standpoint of you're probably screwed playing it to scry or save your butt.
Yeah, it's a combat trick, and typically combat tricks don't really work in constructed unless they're really good combat tricks, like Blood Rush or Giant Growth. And it's a combat trick. It's limited. I think this is a limited card personally, but I could be wrong.
And then we got his list. This is the list that he compiled for the new standard Pauper Blue list. And why don't you read it, Peter?
Sure. So if it's land-based, he's sticking to solid 20 islands. For the creatures, they're going 24, keeping true to the old mono blue aggro route and going with 4 Cloudfin Raptors, 4 Frostborn Weirds, 4 Triton Wave Crashers, 4 Omen Speakers, 4 Nimbus Nead, and 4 Coastal Sea Coast Drake. Wow. I thought that was a completely different card at first. My bad. Into our spell slots, we have 2 Claustrophobia, 2 Hands of Binding, 2 Voyage's End, 3 Negate, 4 Hidden Strings, and 3 Divination. And then his sideboard, he's got 3 Cancels, another Voyage's End, 2 Mizium Skins, 2 Sensory Deprivations, which I actually think should be mainboarded, 3 Lost in the Labyrinth, and 4 Scatter Arc.
Pretty decent list. Yeah, I remember before Theros came out, I remember seeing Cypher, and it's like, God, that it seems too good to be true. But I mean, looking at the wave crash Triton, and seeing Cypher it seems almost semi-broken. It is absolutely ridiculous.
That's so crazy.
Wow, it's just insane. It's like, I'm just gonna make sure you can never do anything again.
Yeah. I would like to, from this list, I would actually like to see an Essence Scatter or 2
agreed.
in there.
Yeah, just because.
But
yeah,
solid.
It's pretty solid. It's worth trying out when we can actually play the list.
Yeah.
Worth revisiting.
The other main reason I think you'd see the Essence Scatter too is because early on in the metagame, aggro is going to dominate until someone can figure out what it takes to make the control deck.
Yeah.
So definitely the Essence Scatters are going to be a must-of main board.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure Essence Scatters will come into this deck pretty fast after people get a chance to mess around with it. I mean, it's obvious. It's a good card, especially with a metagame full of creatures. So. But this article, it's a lengthy article. It goes into a lot, but if you're into standard Pauper, and you're kind of anticipating trying to anticipate what's going to come on with the next meta with the two set M14 and Innistrad, or M13, sorry, and Innistrad leaving, I would recommend anyone to read this article. It's It's pretty good. I really enjoyed the article a lot, and it kind of makes me more excited for standard Pauper post Theros than I was with it leaving. So, with the all the sets rotating out, because it's just a lot of good cards that are getting kicked out of the meta, which is really going to force some new brews. Really looking forward to seeing what comes up with the new brews. So, you guys got anything more you want to say on it?
Not right now, I don't.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. That's all right. We got a meta game. We do have some changes. So a little bit interesting decks show up in Classic Pauper. Actually, I know, right? Basically, what we have is we got elves showing up as we got a elves 4-0 deck. Elves came in 4-0 on what one is this? This is
9/5.
September 5th.
Yeah, 5936604. It's your pretty standard. It's your pretty standard elf list. It's pretty standard elf list. It is splashing for red for Mob of Justice. They're making the mana. They're making the
First
mana
floor
for Mob of
Rangers.
Justice. Yeah. It's your elves. I mean, everyone knows what elf does. I made mention of this because you're starting to see Temporal Fissure pitter off a little bit and everything. So I mean, it's kind of cool to see.
It's because people are realizing that
You say that, and the 2 4-0s below it are Temporal Fissure.
But it's just nice seeing that people are trying to get other stuff to work and not just playing Temporal Fissure. You know, that's what I like seeing.
So what I like about this elves list is it plays Magnify.
Exactly. I completely forgot about that card.
Yeah, every time I see these, I look at these these daily event postings, and I always see a card like, wow, that's awesome that card exists. And Magnify is one of them because if you guys read David Shaffer's article about building out instead of building up with combo goblins, I've seen Elf List run Wirewood Pride before, which is +X to one creature, where X is your
number of elves.
The amount of elves on the battlefield. But Magnify works pretty much the same way, except you're building it out. Your entire elf crew gets +1/+1. And if you have 30 elves out on the board, then they can't just snap and snap your Wirewood Prided creature to save themselves.
That's like dropping a freaking 1-turn Glorious Anthem for a single mana.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is an instant too, so you can respond to an Electrickery with Magnify and blow them out because they didn't expect that you're going to Magnify, and the Electrickery they're planning on saving themselves with the Electrickery, but Magnify counters that. So
just imagine having all that mana and doing a Distant Melody and drawing in. Say you're in game 2 and you sideboard in your other 3 Magnifies, and having that instant mana go off and Distant Melody and getting all your Magnifies and really putting the hurt on.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's really cool about this is that this deck isn't running Spider Silk Armors, which usually the elf lists are.
I noticed that.
And they decided I don't need Spider Silk Armor from running Magnify.
Yeah, you just make your creatures huge. I mean, who's gonna argue with 34 force if you play it outright?
Yeah.
I think you win at that point.
Or something close to it.
Or something close to it.
Yeah.
It's like, I got 30 elves, they're all 4/4. What of it?
So this is a pretty sweet list, and I do like the addition of Magnify to the list a lot.
It's always old cards like that people forget about, and it's like, oh, wow, that actually is a card. So, what else do we got here? This one is another interesting daily. It is, I like to call it just a variety of standard decks, or a variety of classic Pauper decks getting 4-0. I mean, we look at this list, our first one is a Delver Blue list. Our second list is an Affinity list. And then we have
Is a post followed up by goblins.
Temporal Fissure.
It's a Fissure post. The guy's just running it. It's a Boiler Works. Is like an additional mana generator.
Post. We've got Goblins.
And
we've got Auras. It kind of was like, this was just really cool to me because it's like, this is like a shotgun effect. It's like, hey everybody, this is what Pauper decks can do. You know?
Yeah, and then also you've got below that another visual list, and then you've got a Delver
Yeah,
Fiend list.
Delver Fiend. I mean, they're all there.
So pretty much everything's there except for like
Yeah.
Stompy.
And White Weenie, if that's still around at all.
White Weenie hasn't been
Yeah,
around
it's...
in since the advent of Fissure.
It's just...
Poor Weenie.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh well. Let's just kick it to the dirt harder.
Pretty much.
And then we got in this metagame another classic. We have We got some people running Croon Striker in Goblin decks. Basically, where's that? What list was it I found here? It had Croon Striker in it. Right here. It's what's his name?
Gerald Soft Trees?
Yeah, that name. I'm gonna try to pronounce it. He is running a whole bunch of goblins with 4 humans, the Croon Striker. I actually did have a chance to play against this list, and I went 2-1 against it. I still won, but I did lose one game because the Croon Strikers came out with the Foundry Denizens, and
Yeah, actually, this is Shaffer Waffa 5's list.
Okay.
Yep. To a
Yeah,
T.
it's a pretty menacing list, especially when you got the denizens and the Croon Strikers all out, at least 2 or 3 of them. I mean, I think the game I lost, I was facing, what was I facing? I was facing 2 Foundry Denizens and 1 Croon Striker, and let me tell you, that was just horrible. I couldn't draw a Crypt Rat or a deal one damage to everything to save my life, and I got pounded by him. It was ridiculous. I mean, it's just kind of I found this kind of interesting, seeing 4 humans show up with a bunch of goblins. It's kind of different.
Yeah, and the way this one works is like you're both building up and out here, because you're building up by pumping the denizens and the Croon Strikers, and you're building out by with stuff like War Marshals and stuff. But your denizens and your Croon Strikers are getting big, and then you're also building a wider board to beat down with, so they have to have multiple answers to your dudes.
And that's what the Goblin deck does, though. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I hate going against this deck, is because if you're playing Delver, you only have so many counter spells. And they just keep laying. You can counter the important ones, but they just keep laying creatures. It's like, yep, I'm just keep laying creatures. It's fine. Yeah. So you get overwhelmed, and it's just a really good list. It's a really good list, as much as I don't like facing goblins and stuff like that. I used to be a goblins player, but I think when I really delved into the Pauper format, I kind of went elsewhere, wanted to try other stuff. So.
Yep.
And then what do we got here? And standard Pauper, yes, PDC. We actually have some standard Pauper tournament that had a little blue, but not a lot. Your tier 1 was your mono blue flyers. Then we had 5 colors, 5 color hexproof enchantments coming in for some wins. And then what do we got? Red deck wins, Peter. There you go.
I love that deck.
Yep, red deck wins. Peter's favorite. And
not my favorite, but it's just fun. It's straightforward and does what it needs to.
And then Bug Flickergate. I do not mind seeing a Flickergate deck sitting on tier 4. Or on top 4. I don't mind seeing that at all.
He lost to hexproof enchantments.
That's kind of what happens. Luarsol Gatekeeper, beat hexproof. The Gatekeeper becomes an incredibly sad person very quickly.
So, yeah, it's just, again, really cool seeing like, I know for a few weeks when we wanted to report on these tournaments, we really couldn't because it was all blue. I mean, just right down the board, nothing but blue. So, I mean, what do you talk about? Just blue, nothing special. It controls and ticks everybody off. But yeah. Oh, and then we got what was it? Did we get to topic 2 yet? No, we're still talking about meta. My bad. Sorry. New to this, I'm kind of working my way through it. Topic 2. This was something that Dominic Martz. I think he does some writing for MTGO Strat, I believe. He has been He actually has a list that he sent this in, and I thought I'll just read what Dominic wrote. He goes, I spent some time delving into the standard Pauper this week, starting with Mono Red, which was awful, and Celestia Aggro, which was decent. Since I am a natural brewer, rejecting to play standard lists, I have quickly abandoned the major players and started the brewery. So he's basically trying to start brewing his own decks. He came up with a token deck, and it's kind of just a mess of tokens. The whole list is a standard Pauper list, and this whole list is nothing but just the only creatures in the deck are 4 Goblin Electromancers, and I'll just go over the list here, what he has. We got 24 lands in this deck. It's 4 Azorius Guildgates, 4 Boros Guildgates, 4 Izzet Guildgates, 3 islands, 3 plains, and 6 mountains. It only runs 4 creatures. It runs 4 Goblin Electromancers, and for other spells, he's running Gather the Townsfolk, 4 of them, 4 Thatcher Revolts, 4 Captain's Calls, 4 Massive Raids, 4 Battle Hymns, 4 Dynacharge, 4 Amass the Components, and 4 Kranko's Command. This deck is completely straightforward. It's just dropping tokens after tokens and aggroing out, with the help of Massive Raid, which is it deals damage to target creature or player to the number of creatures you control. So basically, you're laying a bunch of tokens, swinging into attack, and ending it with a Massive Raid to go for a whole bunch of damage.
Or you have Dynacharge, which basically turns all of your guys into freaking Spark Elementals, and
yeah,
that adds up pretty dang quick.
Yeah, it does. The Dynacharge is pretty ridiculous. He also writes on this deck that, barring the small size of matches he only played 6. He has yet to lose a game to anything else than Mana Screw or Flood. He feels the deck is very powerful, and apart from Electricity and multiple negates, there's almost nothing that can beat an average draw. You might consider the deck when we talked about standard Pauper again, so that's why I bring it up now. It's I can see where you're just forcing. You're basically what I see with this deck is you're like taking on the control deck, and you're like, okay, let's see how many counter spells you have.
It's, as I say, to draw parallels. It's does what it wants to, because we'll say the big bad. If you're looking for the big, slow, grindy bad guy, you have Flickergate, where you need to take him down, hopefully within the early turns of the game. Otherwise, you're going to give him a chance to stabilize and go to town. So what that does is, it produces so many body swings in, and then again, blows them out of the water with either Dynacharge, or you got them so low that even if Flicker is truly a Gatekeeper, a Massive Raid will do more than enough damage to finish him off, hopefully.
Yeah.
Against your blue-black mill, you only have 4 creatures. The thing that keeps blue-black mill alive is when it Crypt Incursions all of your creatures away, and since it can't hit anything, it's just dead. And when they have 2 creatures per card they play, and you're still playing your 1-for-1 removal, you're not netting anything as the mill deck. And even as you're playing against one of the other aggro decks, they're outproducing creatures than you. And if they need to, I think a Dynacharge at the right time swings the entire board state in their favor.
Yeah, pretty much. That, and you're getting more mana with the Battle Hymns, so you're actually still counting your creatures for your mana for mana too. So like you can have a bunch of creatures out and just pay 2 mana and gain more mana off the Battle Hymn, so you can play more spells and get more creatures. So it's not bad.
I have to play with the list. That's like the one card that I don't like in the list is the Battle Hymn.
The main reason I say that the only reason it seems like it's in there is just so you can go cascade into more tokens, or set up for that Massive Raid finish.
Yeah.
Or set up for the Dynacharge finish.
Yeah, to help get the mana, because you're already spending mana to bring your tokens out, and you need the mana to.
The nice thing is though is that Goblin Electromancer turns most of these token cards into pay 1 mana, gain multiple bodies.
Pretty much. I mean,
minus the Captain's Call and the Thatcher Revolt, but still.
Yeah, Thatcher Revolt and Captain's Call might be a little bit more dodgy, but like your Gathered Townsfolk, that's I mean, most of these are just
1 for 2 bodies.
Yeah, it's not bad. And that's why the Mizium, I'm guessing that's why his sideboard he had listed was 4 Mizium skins, and 11 forests.
It's basically because you need the Mizzou skin so you don't get blown out of the water
Yeah.
with trickery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's an interesting list, and it's something I actually kind of want to try out.
Better get on it quick though.
I'm probably gonna spend some time on that tonight. I might just put this together and try it out. But yeah, pretty interesting deck. Want to thank Dominic for bringing that up and making it topic 2 of the show. Then we got Heroes of the Web.
What is Heroes of the Web, Nate?
Defining what is Heroes of the Web? It's where we find articles, which are find stuff in the forums that people write that take this game way too seriously and really want to take the game farther than it needs to go in some cases.
But does it have to be Magic the Gathering related?
It does not have to be Magic the Gathering related. No, it doesn't.
But it is always nice when
But it really helps.
Yes.
Okay. Helping you out here, Nate.
I know. It's my first time, so just break.
Yeah, and we're training. We're working on it.
Okay. So, all right. So this is the article. It's called "Define Card Advantage." So this article I found on Magic Salvation or MTG Salvation, where we find a lot of articles.
You usually don't need to go past the first page or so, and you'll find one of these things.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. So this is what he writes. So I was talking to another player, and he was stressing how good Squadron Hawk is. He says it gives great card advantage, in parentheses. Now, I know that the more cards you have in hand, the more options and the more answers you have. However, if you're holding onto a bunch of Hawks, they don't do anything in terms of answers. Or maybe I drew into a bunch of lands. If one was holding onto the counter spells, cantrips, burn spells, etc., then yeah, I can see how that's card advantage. Just because I'm holding more cards, regardless of quality, than your opponent is considered card advantage. Not so sure about what about that. What do you think?
I think this is the topic where almost every Magic player, because there is about 30 different types of card advantage. Last time I checked, you can discuss, and it still leaves people scratching their head. I know. I look at half of them going, "Huh, I guess that's a thing."
But one of the comments that I picked up on right away that I really thought was funny was, "Look up a deck called Cobblade. You'll see how good Hawks are." Yeah.
It is nice though. Like he's the first one who does that, but most of these people do try to keep it as an educational, but a couple ones down, and then you see the first guy starts losing his damn mind over this stuff, going, every time. Let's just say, and this is why the whole discussion drives me. Well, this is the most convoluted explanation of card advantage that I've heard in 20 years of this game. Really, I need a freaking PhD just to follow what the hell you're trying to talk about. You folks can sit and nitpick topic right into the graveyard, which is where all this crap will end up anyways, which makes it more fitting. Unfriggin' believable. And unfortunately, he ended up getting flagged for trolling.
Yep.
And unfortunately, people try to keep it real, but as the further you go on, it slowly starts to devolve, and people start bashing each other back and forth, going, "No, that's not card advantage, that's tempo. That's not tempo. That's this or other whatnot, and card disadvantage, da-da-da-da." It's wow.
And then as we go further in, it gets a lot worse. They bring up other decks.
There's 15 pages
15
of
pages
this.
to pick. Yeah, 15 pages and counting.
There's no one locked it yet, as far as I see.
It's still going. Oh my god.
Card advantage is it's really tricky for new players. You don't understand why divination is good, because you're like, what? That's not very good. But it's a huge level up when you figure out why spending 3 mana to have an additional card is a good deal.
But yeah, it was interesting. I picked this one just because I'm like, okay, we got 15 pages of this. Yeah, it's got to be interesting. That, and as soon as they mentioned Cobblade, I'm like, yep, someone's gonna bring out Cobblade and complain about it. That's back when I played Standard, and I hate it. I remember my friend Jeff Schultz. He ended up building a deck that its sole purpose was to destroy Cobblade. The deck had a horrible matchup against everything else in the meta, but Cobblade was not going to win, and he proved it.
Wasn't that a Koth Red story? The Koth of the Hammer red decks?
I think he ran some Koth of the Hammer, but he also ran the because it was the equipment that he hated the most. He played that piece of equipment that just when the creature deals damage, you can destroy
the Hammer of Ruin.
Yeah, Hammer of Ruin. He had 4 of those in the deck, and he would swing in with the evasive creatures and just start wrecking swords.
Yeah, I say the Koth deck was the one that I know was like the foil to Callblade. It was like you either play Callblade or you played the Koth deck.
It was just funny because like at the time, this is when my friend Jeff was just getting into Standard, and he was becoming a good player, but he wasn't good yet, and he had a burning hatred. Like I've never seen anyone hate Cobblade more than this guy. Like he just hated Cobblade, and like he would literally show up at FNM every week, and he didn't care what placing he would end up in, as long as every Cobblade deck that he faced would get 2-0'd. It's the only thing he cared about. He did not care where he ended up. He's like, as long as Cobblade ends up on the bottom, I don't care. It was his ultimate goal, was just to shut Cobblade down completely.
So what you're saying was your friend was like epic troll.
Was. But yeah, you have to learn somehow, right?
Apparently.
But he turned into a relatively good player when he moved out to Wisconsin. He started winning some big tournaments, and as far as I know, he's still winning big tournaments and doing pretty good. So, yeah, you get there.
Eventually.
We do have thoughts and comments this week. We have to do some comments. We have Greystone wrote, he's sad to see Chris 1-0 go, but he's sure that Chris 2-0 will be just as funny. And he hopes that, and he thanked us for the awesome shout out in the show, and he says it really makes a big difference to know that old hats like yourselves approach of the competent
approve of the content I produce.
Nate, would you like me and Chris to do the reading for you, or do you need to put your reading glasses on again?
No, I'm not that old. He says thanks.
I think I'm older than you.
And good luck to Chris 1-0, and he looks forward to listening to the new podcast. And then we have Jay Bussinger. He wrote the art. He's the one that asked us about the paper mono black rats deck. He thanked us he says, thank you for the help. I really appreciate that you guys put in the time to help me out. I hope you guys put out a new Pauper to the People t-shirt. I would buy one to rock over here in Korea when I go play. Once again, keep up the good work. So
that's it, Nate. You're banned from reading.
Thank you. Consensus.
You do it. I don't care.
Well, there's nothing left to read now.
Well, I didn't get much sleep today, so I'm kind of actually tired. So.
Here, I'll type something else for you to read, though, Nate, so you can redeem yourselves.
No, you're not. But
in reply to Greystone, I'm not as funny as Chris 1.0, but I try.
But yeah, if you guys have a chance, if you like video games, I'd check out Chris and Matt's podcast. It's pretty good.
Have they put out the first episode already?
Yeah, they have 2 episodes out now.
Oh shit, I'm behind on the times.
Yeah, their episode's pretty good. I really enjoy listening to it. It's nice hearing Matt. Honest to God truth, I started out as a listener of this show, and what really drew me in was the how Matt and Chris were together. I mean, they've been friends for a long time, and it was just kind of awesome hearing both of them talk. It just the conversation in general, what they were talking about, and that's one of the things why I'm glad that he's doing that game podcast, because I kind of get a little bit I can get that nostalgia back from when it was just Chris and Matt. So I guess that's just the way I look at it. I just like having a podcast with them back together again. And like I said, like Chris said, he's not disappearing from this show either. He's coming on once a month, and he's still the boss. So
we still answer to him.
But
hey, Chris or Nate, my bad. That's an old habit to get out of.
What?
If you want to get a hold of us, how do they do that?
You can reach us on Twitter. What's your Twitter, Chris?
I am Twitter at cweaver8518.
Yep, and Peter still doesn't have Twitter.
Smart.
Until he's a millionaire, so he can watch the facial expressions of people reading what he tweets.
Speaking of Twitter,
if
you guys,
mine is at Nathan Yunkin. You can contact me there as well.
Speaking of Twitter, I forgot there was a topic I wanted to cover, guys. Pauper 8-mans. We need to get those back. 8-man tournaments. A lot of people can't play in the Pauper daily events because they're 4 hours, big dedicated block. So we need Pauper 8-mans back. I have tweeted on my Twitter account at MTG Worth and Magic Online. You know, whose leg do I got to hump to get Pauper 8-mans back? So if you guys could retweet that and share it with your friends, favorite it, do whatever you do with Twitter. I'm not really sure. I just type stuff in Twitter.
Retweet,
sometimes it works.
Spam, do whatever you need
Yeah,
to.
retweet, spam it. We want Pauper 8-mans back. Every other constructed format has 8-mans.
Have you thought about talking to the people over at Gatherling? I'm sure they'd probably be able to hook you up. They'd probably do it.
Yeah, no.
So, I mean, we have yet to do that yet, by the way. Chris's departure kind of put that whole Pauper to the People online tournament thing off in the back burner. I'd make mention of that, too. We'll get back to that. I do want to actually do a tournament for our community, at least one or two of them. We got a classic and a standard. But as of right now, we have to really... We're kind of restructuring Pauper to the People right now, in a way.
We're in that silly little transition phase.
Yeah, we're in a transition phase. So just please have patience with us. We'll get there. A lot of different stuff going on now, but we'll eventually get back up to speed with everything. And once we get back up to speed, I would really like to still go through with the tournament. And now that Chris isn't on the show as much, I'm pretty sure he'll be playing in that tournament too. So. Yeah. So, what else?
We'll see.
We're on MTGO, right?
Strat. MTGOstrat.com. Oh, on MTGO.
MTGO Strat, you can find us, as well as MTG Cast. And you can find Chris on MTGO. What's your username?
cweaver.
I'm nyukon. And what are you, Peter?
Midnight03.
Midnight03. You can always catch us at paupertothepeople@gmail.com. And basically, I don't have anything more to say. Do you want to do a shout out there, Chris?
What?
That was the.
That was the beginning.
My bad.
Sorry,
4 hours of sleep. Oh my god. So I guess that's a show. That's a show, guys. Nothing more.